Welcome back to CityLine. With me, I have somebody who has not Zoomed with me since the pandemic started. He was on the comfy couch probably about a month before that, and he was brand new to his position. So I am delighted that we get to check in with him today. And of course, I am talking about Mr. Brent Mason. You are the executive director still of the Foss Waterway Seaport Maritime Museum. Welcome back.
And thank you, Amanda. It's great to be back with you, albeit in very different circumstances than we first got together back in December, I think it was.
Boy, you had just been hired. Is that right, Brent? Like, how long had you been there? Maybe a couple of weeks?
Yeah, if memory serves me, I think it was maybe a maximum of 2 weeks, but I think I knew just enough to be deadly and not enough to be any more or less informed.
I love that. Well, that belongs on a business card. So let's talk about this. What have you been up to since I saw you in person?
Well, it's funny. I think you had mentioned before going on air that the big word of the day is pivot, right? And so probably about the time that I felt like I was picking up some steam, and it was February-ish. We were out of the holidays, and again I knew just enough to be dangerous that COVID hit, and it was kind of a matter of I guess kind of just trying to do the right thing, right? There was no mandatory shutdowns at that point in time, but the writing was on the wall, and so we made the decision early March, after the first week in March, to close to the public, and then probably within 2 weeks after that, we laid folks off and kind of went into crisis mode, and since then, it's really trying to turn lemons into lemonade. And I think we've done a fantastic job of that. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the staff that I have. It's an incredible leadership team, and also the support of the board. I know it sounds kind of corny, and it's probably something every executive director would say, but we never panicked. Sort of like that deodorant commercial. You never let them see you sweat.
I love that. And your wicked sense of humor goes a long way.
If we can't laugh, what can we do, right?
That's right. When we find those lemonade moments. So, Brent, what is the status right now of the Foss Waterway Seaport? Are you open?
No. We this is probably going to take you down the rabbit hole, but I'll kind of give you some perspective on where we've been. And this, I can honestly say that I probably speak for the other museums in the Tacoma Museum District, because the directors meet on a weekly basis, and so we've kind of been on each other's couch for therapy, and so I know we kind of run a consistent message, and that's that we want to open. We're preparing to open. My goal is probably by the end of this week, end of next week, if the state allowed us to, we could probably open within about 48 hours. But the question then sort of becomes, just because we can, should we? And so that's sort of the debate that we have. We've probably been as busy being closed as we were maybe to a degree when we were open, because we are trying to do everything that we would do live. We're now trying to do live virtually, from education programs to fundraisers. And I know you were involved with TAMS and maybe others. That's a challenge. And we're also trying to sort of turn the museum inside out and allow people to still feel a part of it without having to necessarily step inside of it. But when COVID hit, I thought I was accused of being a little bit too cautious, because I was putting an August 6th opening date. Now it looks like I wasn't cautious enough. And I would say that we would probably be thankful if we got to open up sometime after Labor Day, but I know, and hopefully people don't cringe too much when I say this, but there's a chance we may not open until the first of the year.
Yeah, and you are a wise executive director to be cautious, but also to be aware of how the virus line dictates everything we do right now. You have done a great job of bringing people into the virtual Museum via your website. You have a virtual tour of the seaport with Baby Shark, the salmon release, live broadcast, and your seaport stories services. So good on you for that, because let me tell you, it's 24/7. People are up now going, well, what's the seaport up to at 3 in the morning? And so you keep us entertained. Are there any upcoming virtual projects that you would like to share with us?
Boy, it's funny. If we'd gone back to my original interview with you back in December and you'd asked me that question, I would have had to really, really dig deep into the Rolodex to come up with those thoughts. But actually, this is very easy because I feel like we've been living this for the last many months. Yes, really excited about a couple of different things. So bear with me, and then you can follow up if you have questions about any of them. We do a program in conjunction with Columbia Bank. All the museums are hooked into this called Free Third Thursdays. And obviously, when you're not open, it's hard to have a Free Third Thursday. And so what we are doing is in the process of producing a series of probably 10, 15-minute mini vignettes that we are going to call our virtual Free Third Thursdays that will take people that will take them way behind the scenes, way behind the curtain to see things that they wouldn't if they were even in the museum live. We've got, as an example, we've got a collections room that nobody ever gets to see. And by way of drone videography, we're going to fly people back and give them kind of a buzz over tour of the collections room. We've got some Pocock racing shells that are up in our ceiling that they're great to look at from the floor, but nobody ever gets to look inside of them or around them. Well, again, via the drone videography, we're going to take people on a little aerial tour of these racing shells. So we've got that coming up. We also have our this will ring true because we were kind of talking about this beforehand. We have our fundraiser coming up at the end of September. It's our Chowder Social, which we're actually going to do a drive-through version. And so we're excited about that. So people mark your calendars for September 20th. It's a Sunday. You can get 5 samples of chowder, some Caesar salad, rolls, beer, wine, dessert, the whole 9 yards, and help support the seaport. So that's there. And then, oh gosh, we also are working on being able to put some storyboards on the outside of the museum. We get quite a bit of traffic along the Esplanade, and we want to be able to take some of our exhibits, not necessarily the physical exhibit itself, but the stories behind those exhibits, and put them on the wall, allow people to read up on what they're looking at or what might be inside. And then finally, and we're really excited about this, our education department's done a fantastic job back in the spring pivoting. And we just recently agreed to a partnership with Tacoma Public Schools to provide environmental science programming for their entire 5th and 6th grade classes. So we're going to be serving about 5,000 elementary kids come the fall. So there you go.
Wow.
Not much, huh? Not much going on.
Brent, you are a total slacker executive director.
don't tell my board that. I thought I had pulled the wool over their eyes, but now I think the cat's going to be out of the bag.
I ask this question of a lot of executive directors of what they're up to. And I have to say, I love your response because it's 99% positive and proactive. And I do have a question about the clam chowder, New England or Manhattan?
That's a really good question. All I can tell you is that we've got vendors who make clam chowder one of their specialties that are going to be on hand, and I'm not going to tell anybody who. You got to come down and see for yourself. I do not know if Manhattan's going to be on that menu or not. That's a really good question. So maybe if people come down on the 20th, they can find out just like I will.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm placing my bets on New England because that's kind of what all of us love here in the Northwest.
Yep.
So I have 2 more questions for you before we have to say goodbye. The Maritime Museum is known for education. Why is that so important as opposed to safety or respecting our waters, which are also important?
It's a good question. I think that the reason why we've been able to excel on the education front is that we're probably, well, we are the only museum that has a place on the water or adjacent to the water. Um, we talk a lot about being able. I think if you were to survey all of the students within the Tacoma Public Schools and ask who hasn't been to the water, on the water, feeling the water, and I think we would all be surprised at the large percentage of kids that haven't experienced, whether it be in a boat, in a kayak, whether it be conducting experiments from the safety of the esplanade. But I think so. I think that that's why we do so well on the education front is because of what we offer, and that will probably always be one of our staples and bread and butter. But what our job is, even while we're closed, even while we continue to be closed, and then of course when we open, is to be able to give people other reasons to be part of the museum. We've got a lot of great stories to tell that we are telling, and I think that if people want to get a little bit of Puget Sound history, not just Tacoma history, but Puget Sound history, that the Seaport represents that opportunity to do that. And I think you and I talked about this when I was with you back in December. We're a little bit education, we're a little bit maritime, we're a little bit culture, a little bit people, all that kind of stuff, and that remains even more so. Now that I've been there for 7 months, I see that even being a bigger part of who we are. So again, you don't have to love boats to appreciate what the Seaport has to offer. Remember that conversation?
I do remember that conversation. Absolutely. So, for somebody who is new to the area, you say, come discover Tacoma's hidden treasure. What are those three things, Brent, that you want people to take away from a maritime museum experience?
Fun, become educated, and engage. We want to give people the reason and the opportunity to come back and visit us time and time again. And but we also want people to be informed. I'll be honest, in this day and age, with so much going on between COVID and racial injustice and so forth, that it's important that museums have an obligation to tell the story, but the full story. It's not always pretty. But I think that we owe it to ourselves and our communities to be accurate with our storytelling. And so there is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that's all part of who we are as a community. And I think we have that obligation and that responsibility to do that. So that's what I want people to come away with. I do want them to have fun, hopefully together as a family or as a group of friends someday, socially distanced with masks on and hand sanitizer, and whatever it takes. But I want them to walk away being informed and kind of one of those things of like, I didn't know that.
Yes. Brent, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, to giving us such a beautiful recap full of clarity and purpose. I sit here and feel like, okay, they got this. They know what they're doing. So thank you. And please, I want you back into my house in 90 days. And let's answer the question when you get back in 90 days, New England or Manhattan?
Well, and I want to be able to ask you the question, which you liked best. So I expect to see you down there on September 20th.
You absolutely will. Brent,
thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much. We have much more to come on CityLine, so don't go away. We'll be right back.